Grab your popcorn because today's movie is a good one. This one is messy. Have you ever watched a movie and halfway through you just paused it because your brain refused to believe what you just saw? Yeah, that was me with this one. Because by the time the truth finally came out, I was just staring at my screen like, wait, what? And the craziest part, the movie actually gave us all the clues from the very beginning, but we just didn't notice them. Today's recap is The Long Way Home, starring Uche Montana, Maurice Sam, and Nadia Buari. If you've seen it already, come and let's relive the madness together. And if you haven't, don't worry, I've got you. But before we dive in, if you enjoy Nollywood movie recaps like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Alright, let's get into it. The movie opens with a scene that honestly had me wondering if I had clicked on the wrong film. A woman brings a teenage girl to see a prophet. The girl is pregnant. The prophet looks at her and says something very specific. She must not terminate the pregnancy. Not this one, and not any future pregnancy either. Now that statement already sounds serious enough, but then he asks to speak with the girl alone. That's where we learn how she got herself into this mess. She doesn't even love the guy responsible for the pregnancy. In fact, she says all her friends had already done it, and she was just curious to know how it felt like. My sister, see where curiosity has landed you. You already know that there's premium beats waiting for her outside that room. And just like that, the movie jumps 28 years later. Now we're introduced to a completely different woman named Thelma. She's engaged and wedding preparations are in full swing. Dress fitting, venue plans, everything is moving exactly as it should. Well, almost everything. Because there's one person who still isn't completely sold on this marriage, and that's her mom, Beatrice. Now don't get me wrong, she likes Coyote. She even admits he's polite, ambitious, and respectful. But something about him just isn't sitting right with her. She can't explain it. She doesn't fully trust his intentions. So she tells Thelma to invite him over for dinner. One final inspection before she hands her daughter over. And honestly, I can't even blame her. If I'm paying for the whole wedding, I too want to know exactly who my daughter is marrying. And we finally meet Coyote, and immediately you understand why Thelma fell for him. My guy is in the kitchen cooking, not ordering food, not warming leftovers, actually cooking. So Thelma walks in, steals food straight from the pot, and these two just start playing around like they've been married already. Chemistry between them is effortless. You can tell they're genuinely happy together. Then another issue comes up. Thelma's father wants to walk her down the aisle. Now that's easier said than done. The man walked out on the family years ago. So from Thelma's point of view, he doesn't get to disappear for years, then suddenly return to play proud father on the biggest day of her life. But Coyote doesn't pressure her. Instead, he calmly tells her to think about it. He says if she says no now, there's a chance that she'll regret it years later. Thelma isn't convinced, but she doesn't shut down the idea either. She simply says she'll think about it. At this point, everything looks normal. A couple deeply in love, a protective mother, a wedding that is only months away. What can go wrong? Just when you think the movie is settling into wedding preparations, someone from the past shows up. Beatrice is driving when she spots a man jogging by the roadside. She immediately stops the car, reverses, and calls out to him. His name is Chidi. Now, from the way Beatrice lights up when she sees him, you can already tell this isn't someone she has seen in a very long time. The two of them catch up for a bit. Beatrice keeps looking at him over and over and even says, "You've become a very fine young man." Before leaving, she asks for his number. Well, she actually gives him hers, tells him to save it, and says they should keep in touch. At this point, I wasn't taking anything serious. I just assumed, oh, old family friend, nice reunion. Then the movie gives us a quick flashback. 18 years earlier, young Thelma and Chidi are sitting together, holding hands, laughing at something on the TV, looking like two kids who were completely inseparable. There's barely any dialogue, just a simple memory. Then we get another flashback, and this one is much heavier. Thelma's father finally says out loud what has been destroying their marriage. He admits he only married Beatrice because she got pregnant. Then he says he could never truly love a woman who couldn't keep her legs to herself. Wow, that one landed. He picks up his bags and walks out just like that. Little Thelma watches her family fall apart right in front of her. She's heartbroken. She tells Chidi she's scared. Scared she'll grow up to become just like her mother. And Chidi, trying to comfort her, promises that they'll stay together always, no matter what. Back in the present, wedding plans are moving along nicely. Kayode is fully in fiancé mode. He even sends flowers to Thelma while she's at work. Then he texts her, "Did you get them?" She replies, "Hey baby, yes of course." Then she reminds him about the assessment dinner with her mom that evening. My guy says, "How will I forget?" Little did you know that dinner was about to get very uncomfortable. Thelma and Kayode arrive at the restaurant together. Everything is going smoothly. Then Thelma suddenly spots someone across the room, Chidi. Her face lights up immediately. She runs over and gives him a hug. Before Kayode can even figure out what's going on, Beatrice smiles and says, "Oh, I invited him." Just know Kayode's brain is trying to catch up like, wait, who is this? Everyone settles down, introductions are made, then Beatrice starts talking about the past. She shares stories about how close Thelma and Chidi were while they were growing up. So close that people actually thought they would end up getting married one day. Until how you even say that in front of her fiancé? You can literally see Kayode's expression change. From there, Dina quietly turns into an interview. Kayode asks Chidi what he does for a living. Before Chidi can even answer, Beatrice answers for him. He's into sales. Chidi then explains that he sells fairly used cars. Immediately, Kayode goes, "I'm a software engineer in fintech." Nobody asks her. At that point, it already felt like the two men are sizing each other up. Meanwhile, Thelma and Chidi are busy catching up, laughing, smiling, talking like no time had passed. At one point, Thelma even offers to help him cut his chicken. And honestly, if I were Kayode, I'll clear my throat too. Which is exactly what he does. My guy actually coughs just to remind Thelma, "Hello, your fiancé is still here." Thelma has forgotten her man. After that dinner, Kayode can't just let it go. On their drive home, he casually asks Thelma, "So, why have you never mentioned Chidi to me?" Now he's trying to sound relaxed, but we all know this is the casual question. Thelma looks a little confused because there was nothing to mention. Kayode isn't buying it. You didn't think she mentioned the guy everyone thought you were going to end up with? "I told you about all my exes," Thelma immediately replies. "And I told you about all my exes too." Kayode shakes his head. "Except this particular guy." Thelma explains that Chidi was never an ex. They never dated. Kayode then asks the obvious question. "So why didn't you two ever date?" Her answer is actually pretty interesting. She tells me that they were never meant to date. And honestly, trying to date will have ruined the perfect friendship they already had. Kayode doesn't argue anymore, but you can tell that Dina is still bothering him. A few days later, Thelma meets up with Chidi. They're talking about the wedding preparations, and now Beatrice insists on paying for everything because she wants her only daughter to have an elaborate wedding. Then Chidi suddenly says something that completely changed the mood. He looks at Thelma and says, "If you ever stop being sure about Kayode, come to me first." Excuse me? I actually paused for a second because up until now you could still argue he was just being protective. But this doesn't sound like something a childhood friend would say. Thelma just smiles and said, "Deal." They shake hands, knowing that she doesn't let go. He keeps holding her hand, gently rubbing it while looking straight into her eyes. It goes on just long enough for it to become awkward. Thelma is the one who finally pulls her hand away. Later that night, Thelma is back home, but her mind is still on what happened. She keeps replaying that handshake. Then she checks her phone, opens her chat with Chidi, and saw that it was last sent 2 hours ago. Not long after, Kayode walks in. "What are you doing here by yourself?" Thelma says she's just trying to finish some work. Kayode immediately shakes his head. "Baby, by this time, you're supposed to be in bed by my side." Tries to explain that she just needs to send one last email, but Kayode isn't having it. He tells her she works way too hard and needs to relax once in a while. Then he suggests they forget about work for the night and watch something fun instead. Maybe a movie, maybe a comedy show. Thelma finally agrees, although she still tries to bargain for one last email. Kayode responds, "I'll bite your finger." I can't lie, these two were actually really cute together. As I settling in, Kayode asks, "So tell me about your lunch with Chidi." And this time I want every single detail. Thelma tells him it went well, but after a brief pause, she says something unexpected. She admits meeting Chidi again was probably a bad idea. Kayode immediately asks why. Did something happen? Quickly said no, nothing happened. Just remembers how uncomfortable he was after the dinner, and she doesn't want to upset him again. Kayode simply nods. Then another thing comes to mind. "So has your mom given you the address for tomorrow?" Thelma says not yet. Kayode laughs a little. This is going to be my first time meeting her alone. Thelma laughs too. Sure you don't need backup? Kayode smiles. No baby, I've got this. Thelma still isn't convinced. My mom is a lot, babe. Kayode reassures her again that everything will be fine. Thelma says, I just hope it goes well. The next day, Kayode meets Beatrice at an outdoor lounge. And honestly, it's a really calm conversation. Beatrice opens up about why she's been so protective of Thelma. She tells Kayode that Thelma is her only child. After giving birth to her, she was never able to have another. So naturally, she's always been extra careful about the kind of man her daughter ends up with. Kayode listens carefully, then he reassures her. He tells her she has absolutely nothing to worry about. He's going to take good care of Thelma. He then opens up about the only issues they've really been having, and that's children. He says he's ready to start a family, but Thelma wants to focus on her career first before having kids. And he brings up something else that has been bothering him, Chidi. He admits that Chidi suddenly coming back into Thelma's life has made things a little more complicated, especially after everything that happened at dinner. He even reminds Beatrice that she was the one who invited Chidi. For the most part, it's a really honest conversation. Then just as they're about to leave, Beatrice suddenly feels dizzy. She has had quite a lot to drink. She loses her balance and Kayode quickly catches her before she falls. He helps her steady herself until she's okay. Beatrice thanks him and the two of them say goodbye. Later that evening, Kayode gets back home. Thelma is waiting for him. Naturally, the first thing she asks is, so, how did he go? Kayode smiles. He tells her everything went well. Says her mom was just looking out for her and that she even called him family. Thelma is relieved. She leans in to kiss him. Then she suddenly pauses. Babe, you smell like my mom. Kayode laughs. He said he has been smelling her perfume the whole time they were together. Thelma just smiles. I know my mom. She probably emptied the whole perfume bottle on herself. Okay. So the wedding happens. Life goes on. Then the movie skips ahead 7 months later. Now, I genuinely wasn't expecting what came next. We see Chidi pulling up to Beatrice's house. Turns out she invited him over. When she opens the door, she's wearing a night dress. Chidi looks a little confused. You can almost see him wondering if he came to the right house. Beatrice tells him to come in. She starts flirting with him. Tells him he's different from most men. Says he's handsome, successful and quiet. Chidi says she's beautiful, but this is not what he wants. Beatrice stops him. And she asks him a question. Why? Chidi looks confused. She asks if it's because of Thelma. After all, Thelma is married now. So why is he still hanging on to her? Chidi immediately shuts that down. He tells her he finds it insulting that she reduced his principles to another woman. Realizing she had crossed the line, Beatrice apologizes. She starts to sign the documents that Chidi brought. Tells how she invested in a struggling used car business and these are the investment papers. Chidi accepts the apology, happy that the papers have been signed. He gets ready to leave, but before he can, Beatrice stops him again. This time she asks something even stranger. She says she doesn't understand why he doesn't fancy her. Chidi answers respectfully. He tells her he does admire her, but only as the mother of his childhood friend and as his business partner. Then he finally leaves, and honestly, I thought that was the end of it. Until Beatrice picks up her phone, she makes one quick call. Hey, come over now. Yeah, the usual place, I'm waiting. The usual place? A few moments later, someone walks in carrying flowers. And guys, it's Kayode. Yeah, at that point, I actually paused the movie because, wait, what exactly is going on here? Beatrice's face immediately lights up. She tells him she has missed him, and the next thing, she's pulling him towards the bed. And that's where the scene ends. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting there looking at my screen like, please don't tell me what I think is happening is actually happening. The next morning, Thelma is at work when she gets a call. Her mom has collapsed. She's being rushed to the hospital. Immediately, she drops everything and rushes over. On the way, she calls Kayode to tell him what's happened. The moment he hears the panic in her voice, he tells her he's on his way to. When Thelma gets to the hospital, doctor finally returns with Beatrice's test results. Then he drops a bombshell. Beatrice is pregnant. 12 weeks pregnant. Beatrice hit Thelma's brain trying to process what she just heard. Because who exactly is the father? The movie doesn't answer that question. It just leaves everybody sitting there in complete silence. Meanwhile, Kayode keeps trying to reach Beatrice, but she refuses to answer any of his calls. Thelma, on the other hand, can't stop thinking about it. Later, she opens up to her friend, Simi. She tells her she has to find out who got her mom pregnant, and from everything she has seen, she thinks he might be cheating. Simi immediately pushes back. She tells Thelma to leave her mother alone. After all, Beatrice is an adult. If she and Chidi are together, they haven't committed any crime. And Simi says something that clearly annoys Thelma. She reminds her that she had every opportunity to be with Chidi, but she chose someone else. So maybe it's time to let him live his own life. Thelma doesn't take that well at all. She gets upset, ends the conversation and leaves. Not long after, she goes straight to comfort Beatrice herself. No beating around the bush. She asks her about the pregnancy. And she asks the obvious question, at her age, is she really planning to keep it? Beatrice calmly tells her that she is going to keep the pregnancy. Then Thelma finally says what's really been on her mind. Is it Chidi? According to Thelma, the two of them have been spending a lot of time together, going out on what look like dates. So she wants a straight answer. But Beatrice shuts it down immediately. She tells her Chidi is nothing more than a business partner. Nothing else. Okay. So Thelma leaves, and after that, Beatrice sits quietly for a while. You can tell she's thinking, and she finally does what she's been avoiding all this while. She picks up her phone and returns Kayode's call. The two of them agree to meet. Now at this point, we still have no idea what's going on. Why has Kayode been trying so hard to reach her? And why has Beatrice been avoiding him? When they finally meet, Kayode goes straight to the point. Who is the father? Beatrice looks at him for a moment and she quietly says, "You are." I won't even lie, the reveal caught me completely off guard. Not Chidi, not some random man, Kayode. The man who just married her daughter. At that point, I had to pause the movie because what exactly is going on here? Kayode is just as shocked. He asks her how that's even possible. They were careful. He thought she had even passed her menopause, and she had assured him this will never happen. Almost immediately, Kayode tells her that they have to end the pregnancy, but Beatrice refuses. She reminds him of something she had never forgotten. When she was pregnant with Thelma, a prophet warned her never to terminate that pregnancy, and if she ever became pregnant again, she must never terminate that one either. Kayode doesn't get it, but Beatrice insists it wasn't just advice. The prophet warned that if she ever tried to end a pregnancy, she wouldn't survive it. So as far as she's concerned, there's nothing to discuss. She's keeping the baby. Kayode just sits there completely speechless because now they're carrying a secret that could destroy everything. Their relationship, his marriage, and the entire family. After meeting with Beatrice, life seems to settle down again, at least on the surface. We cut to Thelma and Kayode at home, just enjoying a quiet evening together. Then Thelma brings up something she has been thinking about. Says she doesn't like the idea of her mom living all by herself anymore, especially after everything that happened at the hospital. Then she says, "I think mom should move in with us." The woman those words leave her mouth. Kayode isn't on board. He tries to play it off. He reminds Thelma that her mom has staff. She's comfortable, she has money, she has people around her already. So there's really no need for her to move in. But we already know why he's saying all this. Thelma has no clue. So she's just trying to take care of her mom. She explains that this pregnancy isn't going to be easy. Her mom shouldn't have to go through it alone. If she stays with them, there'll always be someone around to look after her. Kayode still isn't convinced. He tries to suggest other options, but Thelma has made up her mind. She wants her mother with them, and little by little, Kayode realizes he's running out of excuses. He eventually gives in, not because he wants to, but because he doesn't really have a choice. Not long after that conversation, Beatrice moves in, and now everyone is living under the same roof. The next morning, Thelma walks into her mom's room carrying breakfast. She's doing everything she can to make sure she's comfortable. But one question still won't leave her mind. "Mom, who's the father?" Beatrice doesn't answer. Once again, she avoids the question. At this point, I was beginning to realize this secret wasn't coming out anytime soon. Meanwhile, Thelma decides she's done waiting. Simi had recommended someone who can help, so she calls him in. She tells him she'll be needing his services. She wants to know who got her mom pregnant. And if no one is willing to tell her, she wants to find out herself. Back at the house, Kayode comes home carrying bags, chocolate, ice cream, and a few other things to satisfy Beatrice's pregnancy cravings. Watching that scene after everything we already know, I just kept thinking, this whole situation is getting harder and harder to watch. Now, remember the man Thelma hired? Well, he finally comes back with a report, and what he found changes everything. He tells Thelma that over the last 18 months, her mother checked into 4 different hotels. 4. Thelma is completely confused. Her mom, hotels, for what? Then the investigator slides a file across the table. Inside are photographs, hotel records, dates, everything. And that's when the second bomb drops. Beatrice wasn't checking into those hotels alone. She was with Coyote. Actually froze the movie. Because even after everything we've seen, I was still hoping there was some kind of explanation, a misunderstanding, anything. But the evidence was right there. Picture after picture, and somehow it gets even worse. The earliest hotel visits happened 2 months before Thelma and Coyote's wedding. Meaning this wasn't a one-time mistake. That had been going on long before they got married. Then everything started making sense. Thelma suddenly remembers the day Coyote came back after meeting her mom. He hugged her and she noticed that it smelled exactly like Beatrice's perfume. At the time, she laughed it off. Now that moment, it's completely different. As if that wasn't enough, the investigator tells her one last thing. Coyote had been leaving work early on several occasions to spend time with the mother of his child. At that point, Thelma doesn't even know what to think anymore. She walks back to her car in complete shock. Even the drive home becomes difficult. You could tell she was barely holding herself together. Back at the house, Coyote and Beatrice are already talking. Coyote can't hide the secret anymore. He can't bear it. He tells Beatrice they have to tell Thelma the truth. Enough is enough. But Beatrice refuses. She insists telling her now will destroy her. The two of them are still arguing when the front door opens. Thelma is home. She walks into the living room. No greeting, no small talk. She walks straight over and throws a pile of photographs onto the table. Silence. The room goes completely silent. Then she looks at both of them and asks, how long has this been going on? Nobody says a word, because at this point, there's nothing left to deny. The evidence is already lying on the table. Thelma looks at Coyote, then at her mother, still hoping one of them would tell her there has been some kind of mistake. Instead, Beatrice starts talking. She tells Thelma that before she married Coyote, there were 2 men in her life, Coyote and Chidi. Both of them wanted her, but she could not make up her mind. Then she finally admits what has been driving her all along. She couldn't stand watching her daughter have what she never had. According to Beatrice, why should Thelma be the only one wanted by both men? That jealousy is what pushed her into sleeping with Coyote, and even trying to sleep with Chidi. And somehow, she turns around and blames Thelma for everything. I won't even lie, that part really annoyed me. Thelma then turns to Coyote. She asks him the question she's been dreading. How long? Coyote quietly admits it started before the wedding, and he tries to explain himself. He brings up Chidi. He says he saw the way Thelma laughed with him, the way they connected. As if that somehow justifies what he did. But come on, Thelma chose you. She married you. What excuse is there? Beatrice continues pouring out tears of frustration. Talks about how getting pregnant as a teenager changed the course of her life. How she never got to live the life she wanted. You can genuinely see that she's carrying years of pain. But being hurt doesn't excuse hurting the people who love you. Especially your own daughter. Thelma has had enough. She looks at both of them, then tells her mother, you can keep him. And with that, she walks away. Thelma can't stay in that house any second. She walks out completely devastated. She gets into her car, takes out her phone, and calls the first person that comes to mind, Chidi. The moment he answers, you can hear it in her voice. She's barely holding herself together. She simply tells him, I need you. Chidi tells her to come over. When she arrives, he welcomes her in and makes her a cup of tea. For the first time, Thelma finally lets it all out. She tells him everything, the affair, the pregnancy, the betrayal, everything. Chidi doesn't interrupt her. He simply tells her she doesn't have to pretend to be strong. If she wants to cry, she should cry. Honestly, sometimes that's exactly what a broken person needs. Someone willing to sit beside them. So after spending some time with Chidi, Thelma goes on to see Simi. The moment Simi opens the door, Thelma falls straight into her arms. No words, just a hug. Simi holds her and lets her cry. The days that follow are extremely difficult. You see Thelma spending more and more time by herself, trying to process everything that's happened. Then there's one thing that really stayed with me. She quietly takes off her wedding ring and just stares at it. No dialogue, just the background music playing. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. Later, she scrolls through her phone and comes across an old video of her and Coyote, back when everything felt normal, back when she thought her marriage was real. She just sits there watching it, and honestly, that scene hurts because the memories are still there, but now every single one of them means something completely different. The next morning, Simi goes looking for Thelma. She checks the bedroom, nothing. She calls out her name, still nothing. Then she notices that the bathroom door is locked. She knocks. Thelma? No answer. She knocks again, still silence. Now she's starting to panic. Without wasting any seconds, she calls Chidi, tells him to come over immediately. Meanwhile, the movie finally shows what's happening inside the bathroom. Thelma is sitting in the shower, still fully dressed. The water keeps running over her, but she doesn't move. She just sits there, completely lost in her thoughts. A few moments later, Chidi arrives. He walks over to the bathroom door and gently calls her name. This time, Thelma unlocks the door. When she finally opens it, Chidi doesn't start asking questions. He doesn't pressure her to talk. He simply stays by her side. Honestly, sometimes that's all someone needs. Not advice, not answers. Just someone who is willing to be there. Just when you think this family can't get any more complicated, someone else steps in. Beatrice's mother. Long time no see mama. And unlike everybody else, she doesn't waste a second. She goes straight to Coyote. She tells him she is deeply disappointed. She welcomed him into the family, trusted him like one of her own, only for him to betray that trust in the worst possible way. And she turns to Beatrice, and she's just as furious. She cannot believe her own daughter would do something like this. Thelma trusted both of them. Instead of protecting her, they became the very people who broke her heart. But Beatrice isn't ready to accept all the blame. She tells her mother that all she's ever received from her is judgment, nothing else. No affection, no warmth, no love. She says she grew up starving for that love, and now she's been looking for it anywhere she could find it. Then she says something else. She can't just walk away from Coyote now. She's already invested so much in him. She's carrying his child. So what exactly is she supposed to do? Her mother doesn't even hesitate. She tells both of them that they are cut off from the money, the houses, everything. And just like that, they lose it all. Meanwhile, Coyote finally decides to see Thelma. He drives over to Simi's house, hoping she will at least agree to talk to him. Simi opens the door, and the moment she sees Coyote, her face changes. He asks if he can see Thelma. Simi doesn't even think twice. She doesn't want to see you, simple, straight. Coyote tries to explain himself. He pleads with Simi, begging her to let him in, but Simi doesn't budge. The door stays closed. Then Coyote completely breaks down. Right there outside the house, is crying. And honestly, what do you expect? After everything you've done, do you really think she was going to come running out to hear your explanation? Bros, what exactly do you want? Time passes, and little by little, Thelma begins putting her life back together. She moves into a new place, and through it all, Chidi is right there beside her, helping her move, carrying boxes, making sure she's okay. He never tries to force conversations, he simply shows up whenever she needed him. Then one day, Simi calls. She has news. Beatrice gave birth 2 days ago, a baby boy. Thelma doesn't say much, she just listens quietly as Simi tells her everything. After the call, she steps out onto the balcony by herself. You can tell she's still trying to process it all. Then her phone buzzes. It's a message from Coyote. Beatrice just had the baby boy. Looks just like you. I'm sorry for what I did. Beatrice is sorry too. Thelma reads the message, stares at it for a few seconds, then quietly deletes Coyote's number. No reply, no arguments, nothing. Just like that, she lets him go. A few moments later, Chidi walks onto the balcony. He gently wraps his arms around her and asks, "Are you alright?" Thelma smiles. "Yes, I'm alright." The two of them embrace. And that's how the long way home ends. Alright, let's talk about this movie. First of all, this wasn't just a movie about cheating. It was a movie about betrayal. Because cheating is painful, but being betrayed by your husband and your own mother at the same time, that's a different kind of pain entirely. I think that's why Thelma's character worked so well. Uche Montana didn't try to overact. She let the silence do the work. Whether she was sitting in the shower, taking off her wedding ring, or deleting Coyote's number, you could feel exactly what she was feeling without her saying much. And I love that. Nadia Buari also deserves her flowers. What made Beatrice such an interesting character wasn't that she was evil. It was the fact that she genuinely believed she had reasons for what she did. She wasn't defending an accident, she was defending a choice that she made. And somehow she almost convinced herself that she was the victim. That takes a really good performance to pull off. Maurice Sam surprised me too, because Kayode wasn't written as a typical movie villain. He wasn't shouting, he wasn't abusive, he simply kept making one bad decision after another until his entire life came crashing down. And even when he was crying outside Simi's house, I still found myself saying, Bros, what exactly do you want? And there's cheating, and I think he was the calmest person in this entire movie. He never forced himself into Thelma's life. When she chose Kayode, he stepped back. And when everything fell apart, he didn't come with "and I told you so." Simply showed up when she needed someone. That was really refreshing to watch. And another thing I really liked about this movie was the pacing. The movie didn't rush its biggest reveal. It kept dropping little clues along the way: the perfume, the awkward pauses, the hotel meetings, the lingering looks. So when the truth finally came out, it wasn't random. Everything clicked into place. Now I do have one complaint, and it was about the ending. I wanted a little more from the ending. Not because every movie deserves a happy ending, but because I wanted to know what happened after. Did Thelma ever forgive her mother? Did Kayode spend the rest of his life regretting his choices? Did Beatrice ever realize the damage she had caused? Those are questions I genuinely wanted answers to. Overall, though, I really enjoyed this movie. The acting was natural, the dialogue felt real, the suspense kept building without feeling forced, and most importantly, the movie actually made me feel something. For me, The Long Way Home gets an 8/10. It wasn't perfect, but it's definitely one of the better Nigerian YouTube movies I've watched this year. And that's The Long Way Home, a movie that starts off feeling like a simple family drama and ends one of the craziest betrayals I've seen in a Nigerian YouTube movie. Now, I've got just one question for you. Could you ever forgive something like this? If you were Thelma, will you ever forgive Kayode and Beatrice? Or will you walk away forever? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.